Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another video. It's Andy here, and today we're going to be looking at Takealot fees. So if you're out there and you're wondering whether your business is suitable to sell on Takealot, you first need to make sure you are fully aware of the fees involved in selling on Takealot. It is not something to be ignored. The fees are very much significant, and I think it is very crucial that you pay attention to these fees. I do mention a lot of these tips and tricks and extra information in my course, which you can find a link to below. And in that, obviously, I do a lot more details about getting started as a Takealot seller, and you can skip a lot of the learning curves that some of the other sellers like myself had to go through. Right, without further ado, let's jump in and have a look at some of the Takealot fees. So we have a subscription fee, which is just a flat monthly fee. Then we have fulfillment fees, which I like to break up into different sections. I like to break it up into delivery to Takealot, Takealot to the customer, and between the different distribution centers is also bears a fee. Next is storage fees, and that is quite self-explanatory, but if you have stock at the Takealot warehouse and it's not selling quick enough, you do have to pay storage fees. We'll dive into a little bit more of that later. And lastly is sort of the other miscellaneous fees, and maybe can be also called penalties, and those are things like maybe if you miss an order, you might get a small penalty, but we'll also talk a little bit more about those in a bit. Firstly, the subscription fee. That is a very significant 460 Rand, including VAT, a month, which I think is very high for a subscription fee to be a seller on their platform, to bring my inventory and sell it on your site and still pay you other fees. Anyway, so that's a very significant fee. And that's as soon as you add an offer. So I think they want you to basically, once you're enrolled and you're ready to sell, they do want you to be sort of incentivized to get going. And that is a huge hurdle for a lot of sellers. You're on board, you do the training, and then it's just like, it feels very nerve-wracking to go and add all the product. But anyway, so there's that 460 Rand a month fee. Now, if we talk about the delivery fees / fulfillment fees, I want to talk about the first one, which is delivery from Takealot to the customer, which, as you can see here on this graph, it starts off with some very reasonable shipping charges, and all of these do exclude VAT, by the way. Starts off with some pretty reasonable charges, around 18 Rand for non-perishables, which isn't really most of the items. Generally, most of the items that sellers are selling that aren't like perishable or consumable are things in the 30 Rand category. I mean, for me personally, it's mainly there. That's your CDs, DVDs, books, all of those sort of things generally fall in that category. But be careful, it does go up to, as you can see here, 340 Rand if you are selling something very heavy. And you've got to be careful, because if you don't put extra 340 Rand delivery onto your item, you're going to feel very short at the end of the month. Next up is delivery to Takealot. So as it works is you have to make sure that you get your inventory from your warehouse all the way to a Takealot distribution center, and not just the one that's closest to you. You do have to send it to Cape Town as well as to Johannesburg. So you're sending to both distribution centers. Now this is going to differ the cost between wherever you are and whatever you're sending and how much it weighs. For me, my average is 253 Rand per shipment to Cape Town and 505 Rand per shipment to Kempton Park, which is the Joburg DC. Now that is quite a significant amount, so you do have to factor that in. It depends on how many items this is. If I was sending one item in the shipment, you would be feeling a little bit short at the end at payday with that 253 Rand extra not being factored in. So do factor in. I like to take the sort of total for a month and just divide it by the number of sales per month, and then I add that onto each and every order. Next up, if we have a look at the IDC fees, which is the inter-DC transfer fees, or I think they also call it IBT fees, it's basically something that they've implemented, and it's not really something that a lot of sellers like, is if you send to Cape Town and you send to Joburg, so you've got 1 unit in Cape Town and 2 units in Joburg, but someone orders 3 and they are in Joburg or in Cape Town, you'll actually pay to get it from Cape Town to Joburg. Then you'll pay again per item to get it from Joburg to the customer. It is very annoying, and it is very hard to stop, and you can't turn it off. And sometimes it just, you end up sending stuff to Joburg, and then they charge you to send it back when you are in Cape Town anyway. You could have sent it, vice versa. So here you can look at the fees. Look, it does have some lower end items, 18 Rand, but it also has some more expensive lines as well, 220, $100. Just have to be very careful of that. All right, up next is storage fees. So storage fees are good and they are also bad. So you get free storage if you sell in stock at Takealot. You send a bunch of your stuff to Takealot and it's free to keep it there pretty much indefinitely. However, you do have to be getting sales on those items. So if you have a cover day of more than 35, and you essentially become eligible for fees. And there's a calculation for that, which is you would just basically take your sales divided by the sort of how much inventory you have in there, and it tells you how many days of inventory you have left. If that's too high, they're going to charge you, unfortunately, for storage. But as you can see, it's not too bad, but you can see how this adds up. And this is excluding that, and this is per item. So if you have 100 items sitting there and that's not selling, and even on the smallest bracket, that's going to be $400 to store there. Right, so that's storage fees, and you do have to be very careful of those. Next up is seasonal storage fees. So this doesn't apply year round, and this sort of comes in the November, December, January period. And that is sort of a extra charge for stuff that is overstocked. And then you also get like levels of overstocked. And as you can see here, it's a slightly inflated price. So now it's like 5 Rand, 7 Rand, 10 Rand for small items, and so on. You guys can see from here. Look at some of the extra bulky items, 1,080 Rand if it's severely overstocked. That's per item, hey? So you have to be very, very careful. There are instances, I mean, you do sign a debit order with Takealot when you sign up with them. So if you store it there, even if you're not making sales, they're going to debit you and charge you to keep it there. Right, so that covers it for storage fees. Success fees is another huge part of selling on Takealot, and that is basically essentially on every item you sell, whatever you see on Takealot as the selling price, it's $100. You have to pay 15% of that, or a set percentage of that goes to Takealot as a fee for covering advertising, using the platform, managing all the customer complaints and things like that, returns and logistics. Anyway, so it depends. It ranges from about 5%. I think some of the categories are as low as like 2 or 3% for like very competitive items, TVs, cameras, and so on. But it can go up to, as you can see, up to like 15% for some categories, which is very, very significant. Right, and then lastly, I want to touch on the other fees, which is like a cancelled lead time, I think is about 57 Rand 50, including VAT. So if you miss if you cancel it because you don't have stock or something like that, you do have to pay a penalty. And removal orders is also a fee, and that is 2 Rand 87, including VAT per item that you remove. So if you overstock, you also pay to remove it. So guys, as you can see, the fees are very extensive. You have to be so careful when managing your Takealot sales. The sales are generally good. I do encourage selling on Takealot. However, if you're not smart about those fees, they can very much eat into your profit. And I see it all the time, people complaining about very low payouts from Takealot because they see these good sales, hundreds of thousands maybe even, but then Takealot takes their fees, which is also can be hundreds of thousands, and you're left with very little at the end of the day if you don't manage it well. So take the time, run through the numbers, make sure that these other charges that don't always show up on your sort of front end, you have to really go and look for them in each accounting line that you've done, that Takealot's taken from you, and just sort it, filter it, do some Excel on it, and make sure that you are aware of what they're charging you, where they're charging you, where you're making your money, and where you make profit at the end of the day. I'm Andy. I make business videos to help you grow your business. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully check you in another video soon.